Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a really fascinating dive into the mechanics of human thought and decision-making. If you've ever wondered why you make certain impulsive choices, or why it literally feels exhausting to focus on a difficult math problem, well, the answers actually lie in the hidden architecture of your brain. We're going to break down exactly how you think, why you're so easily persuaded, and then we're going to look at a massive scientific plot twist that absolutely rocked the foundation of psychology.
To kick things off, there's this profound quote from the late Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman that sets the stage perfectly. He said, "One of the tasks of System 2 is to overcome the impulses of System 1. In other words, System 2 is in charge of self-control." Think about that for a second. There is a constant, invisible battle for control happening right now, inside your own head. But to figure out who's actually fighting, we first need to look at the rules of the game.
And that brings us to the dual process model. It's a foundational theory in psychology that essentially distinguishes two fundamental thought processes in humans, the unconscious and the conscious. It suggests that our minds aren't just running on one single operating system. Instead, it's more like we have two very different modes of processing information that dictate our everyday lives. Section 1. The two minds. So this theory completely changed how we view human behavior. And the brilliant synthesis of this whole idea really hit the mainstream back in 2011 with Daniel Kahneman's massively influential bestseller, Thinking Fast and Slow. Kahneman, working alongside his longtime collaborator Amos Tversky, absolutely revolutionized behavioral economics by proposing that two distinct players govern our minds. This book basically took highly complex cognitive science and translated it into a framework that finally explained why we are often so predictably irrational.
Section 2. System 1 versus System 2. Let's break these down. First up, we have System 1. This one is fast, automatic, emotional, and highly intuitive. It operates with little to no effort on your part. Then, on the flip side, we have System 2. This is the slow, deliberate, logical, and highly effortful part of your brain. Basically, if System 1 is your quick gut instinct, System 2 is the strict analytical monitor that demands your full, undivided cognitive resources.
To make this a bit more concrete, let's think about System 1 in action. If I say bread and, your brain automatically fills in butter, right? You don't even have to think about it. Or if you're walking and suddenly see a puddle, you instinctively hop over it. Hear a loud noise, you immediately turn to look. This is your automatic, subconscious mind reacting instantly to the world around you.
Now, contrast those lightning-fast reactions with these scenarios. Looking for a specific friend in a huge, crowded room. Or maybe driving down a dark, unfamiliar road at night while it's pouring rain. Or sitting down and analyzing your retirement budget to see if you're actually saving enough. You can literally feel the mental strain when performing these tasks. System 1 just can't handle them. They require System 2 to step in, focus deeply, and really crunch the numbers.
Section 3. Nudging the automatic brain. Here's the catch, though. Because System 2 requires so much energy to run, it's actually quite lazy. It defaults to System 1 whenever possible to save power. And once businesses and policymakers realized this, it was a total game changer. Our subconscious mind relies heavily on heuristics, basically mental shortcuts, which makes it highly susceptible to targeted marketing, choice architecture, and environmental design. Businesses can literally nudge our behavior by bypassing our logical brain entirely.
Let's look at some real-world examples from our source material. Take M&M's. Back in 1995, they introduced those colorful, emotional spokes candies with distinct personalities. Why go through all that trouble? Because it establishes an emotional association that sticks right in System 1, driving you to buy them without thinking logically about it. On the policy side, behavioral economists realized that if retirement savings require System 2 effort, like, say, filling out a stack of complex forms, people just won't do it. So they changed the default to auto-enrollment. They essentially use System 1's lazy preference for the status quo to help people save money.
But the amazing thing here is that these systems aren't entirely fixed. You can actually shift an activity from System 2 over to System 1 through habit formation. Think about learning to make a bed, or tying your shoes, or driving a car for the first time. At first, it requires intense, intentional System 2 focus. It's exhausting. But with repetitive practice, it smoothly downshifts into an automatic, effortless System 1 habit.
So this dual process framework is incredibly elegant and has been widely accepted across the board. But what if I told you the science behind some of these foundational studies on our fast thinking was actually flawed?
Section 4. The replication crisis. Right around 2011, social psychology hit a massive wall known as the replication crisis. It became glaringly apparent that a ton of highly respected, statistically significant studies simply could not be reproduced by other scientists. So the empirical foundations of the psychology of the 2010s were suddenly looking incredibly shaky. And Kahneman's book unfortunately relied on dozens of these specific studies to prove exactly how System 1 operates.
In fact, when researchers later analyzed the data behind Chapter 4 of Kahneman's book, a chapter that focused heavily on implicit priming, or the idea that subconscious cues dictate our behavior, they gave it a replicability index score of just 19. Now, to put that into perspective, in this scoring system, anything below 50 implies there's a less than 50% chance that a result will actually replicate. So in 19, that was a flat-out failing grade.
There was a really stark contrast caused by the publication bias of the era. The book presented these psychological studies as hard, factual discoveries, essentially claiming a 100% discovery rate of how the mind works. But later statistical analyses, like the Z-curve estimate, show that the actual replicability of the significant results cited was somewhere between just 12 and 46%. Many of the bold claims about exactly how System 1 can be secretly primed were based on studies that simply didn't hold up to rigorous retesting.
And honestly, there's a brilliant irony here. In the source material, there's a famous experiment discussed called the invisible gorilla. Viewers are told to focus so intensely on counting basketball passes using their System 2 that they completely fail to notice a person in a full gorilla suit walking straight across the screen. It's a phenomenon called inattentional blindness. Metaphorically speaking, the scientific community of the 2000s suffered from this exact same thing. They were so intensely focused on publishing exciting, statistically significant results that their own System 2 focus blinded them to the obvious flaws in their empirical environment.
Section 5. An enduring scientific legacy.
So does the replication crisis mean we just toss out the entire idea of fast and slow thinking? Absolutely not. The overarching legacy of the dual process model remains incredibly powerful. It successfully revolutionized behavioral economics. It continues to effectively guide public policy, marketing strategies, and financial planning even today. And really, most importantly, the controversy itself highlights the beautiful, self-correcting nature of science. The specific data points on priming might have been flawed, but the core architecture of an automatic mind and an analytical mind, that absolutely holds true. And Kahneman himself embodied this scientific spirit perfectly. When he was confronted with the replicability issues of the priming studies he cited, he didn't get defensive. He actually agreed with the critics. As his former student Nathan Novemsky noted, Danny instilled in his students his focus on getting the science right. He had a penchant for self-doubt. Kahneman acknowledged the flaws, proving that true scientific progress requires the humility to let System 2 logic override System 1 ego.
Which leaves us with this final, vital thought. We've seen just how powerful our fast, automatic thinking really is, and we've seen how even the most brilliant scientists can have massive blind spots. So I'll leave you with this. If your mind operates on a mix of flawed intuition and lazy logic, how much control do you actually have over your next decision? Keep questioning your own mind, and thanks for joining me on this explainer.